Goalkeepers, nervous strikers, they'll deliver. Crowd roars erupted, you can feel the quake. 80,000 voices.
Hello there, Nigerian football fans and football fans everywhere. Now in today's video, or rather in this video, I'll be talking about generational talents, the concept of generational talents. Now you've heard that phrase being used everywhere, and then you've had players like Estevao William referred to as a generational talent. You've had players like Lamine Yamal, described as a generational talent. Now the question is, why don't we hear, Nigerian players, Nigerian youngsters being mentioned in that category, being mentioned as generational talents? Now, is it because in Africa, in Nigeria, you don't have generational talents, you don't have talents that you remember for years and years to come, for generations to come, that change the way the game is being played? No, it's not that. That's not the case. Now, the question I have to ask, that I've been on my mind is it a question of generational talents or a generational platform? Ever since Pele, ever since Diego Maradona, or blessed memories, you always hear people wanting to get the next Brazilian talent, the next bit of Pele, the new Pele. I remember when Neymar, was doing his thing at Santos, for his first stint at Santos. Everyone wanted the new Neymar, the new Neymar, the new Pele, the new Pele, the new Pele. And that happened for years and years, even prior to Neymar. And when Neymar left, the next person from Santos was termed as the new Pele. And Messi was termed the new Diego Maradona. And you have more people who've come for, even Saviola before him, as the new Diego Maradona. So you've had these things where they have this platform, you have the media around the players, highlighting their ability, highlighting what they do, spotlighting what they do, hyping their growth, hyping their potential, talking about how high their ceiling is, putting spotlight on everything they do. So in Europe, you have this for players, for young players. In Brazil and Argentina, you have this as well. So you always have this maybe top 10 list, top 20 list of, exciting talents. And you always see those talents are usually, European players. Now, is it a question of only European players have this, are super talented or are capable of being generational talents? Now, the question for me is, or the answer for me is, of course not. It's more of a generational platform. That is platform that have existed for time and will continue to exist, that always will spotlight these players, put these players in front of your eyes. You're watching, as you're subscribing to the channel, that will put the players in front of your eyes, put the players in the front of the eyes of the fans, front of the eyes of football directors, front of the eyes of those decision makers. You're always hearing about them on X, on Facebook, on TikTok, or Instagram, on different social media platforms, on mainstream TV. You always hear about those players, and then you begin to have the feeling of this player is a top player, is a wonderfully talented player. Now, don't get me wrong, these players, obviously they have to have talent. Obviously they have to have talent, but what puts them at that extra level, at that level of superstardom, even as young players? It's this generational platform that gives them the opportunity to show their skill and also highlights their ability. Now, we've had the likes of Ari Parabo that broke goal scoring records for the Creative Championship in Nigerian grassroots football. He's since moved to Lillestrøm. You have a player like Onyebuchi Obasi that now plays for Villarenga. He used to captain Beyond Limits, a club, I think, that a feeder academy to Remo Stars in the Nigerian Premier Football League. So we see all these things, we see, how players are spotlighted. And then you ask yourself this question: why is it difficult for a Nigerian player to move straight from the Nigerian Premier Football League, or rather to move from an academy in Nigeria, straight up to a Madrid, straight up to a Chelsea, straight up to, a Barcelona, straight up to a Manchester United, straight up to Inter Milan? What is it? You having players do it, but not to the extent, or not to the level that a Brazilian would do it, or an Argentine would do it, or other South Americans would do it. It's a question of the platform that they have, and that's one of the reasons I set up this channel. That's why you should subscribe and support this channel. You know, because the idea is we have talents in Nigeria, generational talents, players that can do things with the ball that you've not even imagined, that you cannot imagine. But the issue is they don't have that platform to shine. The Nigerian Professional Football League have different serious questions to answer. The Nigerian Football Federation, they have a serious question to answer. The league management company, they have a serious question to answer. And we, as fans of Nigerian football, of Nigerian players, we also have our part to play. You know, when was the last time you highlighted a Nigerian player? In fact, when Victor Osimhen was about signing for, or rather, the reports were out that Victor Osimhen could possibly sign for Chelsea. You have so many Nigerian players disparaging Victor Osimhen. Even now, you have some Nigerian football fans, that look to place Victor Osimhen and a very, very young player like Liam Delap on the same pedestal, on the same platform, at the same level. But that shouldn't be the case. That should not be the case. So now is the time to start creating those structures, creating those platforms. And let me let you know one thing. It will never happen, right? This will never happen. You will never see, an European media outlet propping up an African player that is not eligible to play for them. You will never see it until that player plays for an European club, and then they begin to highlight the player because of what that player can do for that club. So it is my responsibility to talk about these players, to highlight these players, and showcase what they can do. Because it's only when you start praising your own thing, it's only when you start creating the right narrative about your own thing, about players in Nigeria, players in Nigerian grassroots, that countries or other countries, other football experts or football fans will begin to look at the players and spotlight them and say, oh yeah, this player is good. So the MPFL have their role to play. The league management company have their role to play as well in creating this generational platform that will outlive you and outlive me and will continue to grow, because nobody understands what Pele has done for Brazilian football. Because ever since Pele, everybody wants to get a slice of Brazilian players. If Pele, we can no longer get him, but can we get the next best thing, which is that talented Brazilian winger, that talented Brazilian number 10? Since we can't get Pele, he is the next best thing. He is a Brazilian, so he should be so good. He's Argentine, he should be so good. That is why you can see, a Brazilian can be bought straight out of Palmeiras from maybe 30 million euros to a mainstream European club. But when it comes to a Nigerian player, yes, it's a long pathway. You probably would go from an academy in Nigerian grassroots football, and then you move to maybe a club that finished 6th or 7th in the Norwegian league, and then you're there for a bit, and then you move maybe to a Belgium, and you move to a club who's maybe depending at the top 4 of the Belgian league, and you're there for a while, and then you move before you go to the real top clubs, if possible at all. So while it's understandable, while it's true that in Brazil, of course, you have to have that talent. In Argentina, you have to have that talent. Excuse me. In Europe as well, in England, in Spain, in Italy, you have to have that talent. But that generational platform is what takes the supposed generational talent to new levels, to high level, to that stratospheric level where you say, oh wow, this player is so wonderful. I've never seen a player like this. So that are my thoughts on this topic. What are your thoughts and opinions on the concept of generational talent versus generational platform? So at this point, I've come to the end of this video, and like I said, do have a splendid rest of your day. Stay well.